A Place to Land, written and narrated by Rosalie Fox. Although this is a work of fiction, it's written in memory of the boys who faced battle in the sky, in memory of those who didn't come home and everyone who loved them, in memory of those who did come home and had to find a safe place to land, a way to live with the memories and the ghosts, lest we forget. Thank you to Dr. Marlies for all the knowledge of Namibia and to Wouter Boetes, who kindly checked out my facts around the crash. For Genevieve, who loves beautiful words and Celtic accents, and fell in love with Johnny Riley in A Tale of Wild Geese. Sometimes, out of mistakes, great hardship and strife, something beautiful and resilient blooms. Such are the cosmos flowers, blooming in endless pink, white and burgundy carpets on the South African grass veld and beside the dirt roads in autumn. I fancy that they would bloom next to Johnny's runway too, a beacon for his place to land. Chapter 1. The Karoo and the Irishman. The dust road seemed to stretch out interminably in front of Johnny. December in the Karoo was not kind to an Irishman fresh from a British winter. His temper burned as hot as the heat waves over the veld. He was going to have to find something real to do with himself, and he didn't know what. Behind him lay Soetfontein Farm, his friend Danny O'Neill, and his cuz, Eleanor, united after 3 years apart. He didn't begrudge them their happiness in each other and their daughter. They had been through enough, and if anyone had ever deserved a happy ever after. But it stirred up something in him, the old wildness, the need to yell chocks away into the wind and feel the roar of engines hunting the blue sky ahead. Further behind him lay a Spitfire squadron and a desk job. He wouldn't go back. It was still doubtful whether his knee would ever recover from his crash. They wouldn't let him be operational. He was sick of war anyway. He needed some outlet for the itch he couldn't scratch and floor the car. There was mild satisfaction in leaving the large dust cloud behind him. Over the summer landscape and heat waves Springbok leapt. He could have taken off with them. The frustration in him was burning that high. He had offered to do the town run since he needed to get out and everyone else was tied up in their own personal affairs. He didn't know what he was going to do. His past lay convoluted behind him and the future was all foggy ahead of him. It would have to be handled on IFR, instrument flight rules, flying blindly and relying on the instrument panel. He smiled at the old joke. They'd called it I Fly Railway Line in training command. There was no railway line to follow in life. He would have to ask questions around town, ask about flying locally. If he could find something to keep him busy for a few months till he knew where the wind was going to blow him. He pulled into town, checked his shopping list. Groceries. He cursed. Martha had a long list. He worked through it, gritting his teeth. He'd offered. He had to do it. He bought sweets for Tamra. He smiled involuntarily. That child. He wouldn't have cried. He wouldn't. Seeing Elle after all this time had been lovely. He could have hugged and kissed her and joked and made his peace with her. But when that little curly-headed girl with her glamorous brown eyes made her appearance, and he'd known, he had left her unsuspecting father in the hotel at Craddock, waiting to hear if his wife wanted to see him. That had just undone him. He hadn't wanted to be undone, to feel the things he did, the joy and yet the emptiness in his own life. It had been a while since there had been warmth in his life. There had been war. He packed the groceries in the car. Post office it was. He was sweating. His shirt clung to him. His knee hurt. It was the remains of his last run-in with the Focke-Wulf 190 and the subsequent crash. There was a short blonde girl in the post office, standing with her back to him, sorting through mail. "Good afternoon, ma'am." She turned around slowly, looked him up and down, and dimpled. Her Afrikaans accent was thick, but her English was good. "Oh, my. You have to be Johnny Riley." He was completely taken aback. She had ash blonde hair with darker streaks in it, neatly put up. She wasn't chubby and she wasn't skinny. She had curves where he liked them and eyes as green as spring in Ireland. "I am, but I'm afraid I don't share the knowledge of who you are." She was shamelessly looking him up and down. He couldn't help it. He was laughing and she joined him. "I'm sorry. I have no shame. I'm Elle's friend, Louise Viljoen. My family lives a couple of farms away from Soetfontein, and I'd heard all the stories that you and her husband had arrived in town. I've just been waiting for a decent time to pass before coming over to Ogle and meet you both. My goodness, I can't wait to see her. You know, she's gone through hell, my sweet friend. I'm so happy. Anyway, I'm talking up a storm. Johnny Riley, I am pleased to meet you." She held out a slim, strong hand and he shook it, laughing. "I am pleased to meet you too, Louise Viljoen, Elle's friend." She squeezed his hand. "Why do I feel like I know you?" "I don't know. Why do I laugh every time you say something?" "I don't know. I'm not that funny. Shall we find out?" "Would you care to join me for a drink?" "I would, but I also have to work for 15 more minutes in this place where you could bake bread with the door open." "I can wait 15 minutes if you promise to keep me laughing." "Oh, wait till I make you stop." "Is that a threat or a promise?" "Care to find out?" "In 15 minutes at the hotel?" "On the porch. Ladies are not allowed to drink inside." He walked out, shaking his head, still laughing. She was something. She'd put on lipstick, he saw, as she shifted into the chair opposite him. She had a generous, full mouth, dark lashes frosted with blonde, and freckles sprinkled over her nose. "Johnny Riley. Louise Viljoen. You remembered my name, and the color of your eyes. I made an impression then. I'm not sure what to make of it." "Me neither. Quite yet." There was a moment of silence as they sized each other up. "You're looking at me like I'm a horse you're planning to buy." "Well, you're quite lame in the left leg. I might have to let a vet check you out before I make any further plans." "It's like that, then?" "It's like that, then." He was laughing, but he really was out of his depth. "Are all of you South African girls this forward?" "In this particular town, no. Just me. And not with everyone, Johnny. Just with you." "Why me?" "Because I think I'm going to marry you. Would you get me a glass of wine, please? Remember, I'm not allowed in there." He was really quite out of breath then. They sat and talked too long. It was dark when he remembered he had groceries in the car and a long drive back. She walked with him to the car. He was even more out of breath when she ran her nails up his arm, smiled at him, put her hand behind his neck and kissed him more thoroughly than he'd been kissed in many years. "So you'll remember. Good night, Johnny." He had never been as muddled before in his life. One little blonde girl with green eyes, and his brain was scrambled. "Johnny, what the hell is wrong with you?"